Good evening, everyone. My name is James Oluwole, and I'm excited to have you again joining us today at our Leadership Masterclass. It's been the last for the year 2024, and I think it's been an amazing year all through. An exciting time that we've all been together in this series of engagement, discussing leadership, discussing culture, discussing business opportunities and investment. I mean, it's a lot over the year 2024. We have been able to engage in different subjects that have impacted us in the areas of our careers, in the areas of our business, in the areas of our personal growth and development. And I'm excited that we are ending the section with this important subject and also having a very special guest again with us today, Mr. Abdul Damba. As you are all aware, we have the first part one of this section last 2 weeks, which is on the topic, the impact of leadership on organizational culture and systems. And based on so much of popular demand after the part one of the section, we felt to have the part two of it. And I'm excited that Damba is also available to be joining us. And I want to assure you again, there's really going to be another interesting time of engagement and interaction. And I'm excited that Damba is here. So the flow of the engagement today, during the last section, as you all are, I'm unable to cover most of my questions. So I intend today to be a bit biased, and please, you have to bear with me. So I'll be attending first to all of the questions that we've put together, which I kind of feel some of these questions, because we want to be as practical as possible, and we want to make it real, because every day, these are the things that affect us in our daily lives, in our daily decision makings, and we're bringing it into that context as leaders, as emerging leaders, and we're bringing in issues that addresses our leadership potentials and how we can keep growing. And after those questions, then we'll give room for participants also to ask their questions. We intend to keep to our time at 1 hour 30 minutes, but we are happy to stretch for another 15 to 30 minutes as the engagement unfolds and how we interact. And I want to welcome everyone again. I appreciate those joining us by WhatsApp, and we've seen a lot of participants also on Zoom. And please permit me to welcome Mr. Abdul Damba. For the benefit of those that were not in the first section, I'm just going to give him some brief 1 minute thereabout for him to kind of introduce himself again to us, and we'll move in straight into our question. Thank you, Mr. Damba, for your time, and kindly just introduce yourself to us. Thank you. Okay, I notice Damba is muted. Sorry, if you're talking, you're muted, Damba. So.
Okay.
Okay, you're fine.
Yes, I can hear you now. I think you had kept, it was only you who could unmute me. So.
Oh, okay.
I'm good now. Okay. All right. Hello, James. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here again. And then thanks to all participants for actually making time to be here again. Firstly, I am really so honored to be given the opportunity to share some sort of experience and also to learn from all of you. I see all the questions you ask as not just questions for me to answer or for myself and James to discuss, but an opportunity for us to also learn from it. So with all humility as always, this is just a platform for us to share our experience and also to learn from each other. My name is Abdul Damba Tahidu. Yeah, please call me Damba, the country director for IDE. I've been with IDE for the past 8 years, and before IDE, I was working with Innovations for Poverty Action, a research-based non-governmental organization focused on assessing what works or does not work through research. And so before IDE, that was actually where I worked. And at IDE, my main focus is really to explore a business case in addressing developmental challenges, looking at what is the role of the local economy in addressing some of the fundamental challenges we have in WASH, in agric, and also and in general livelihood, and thinking of women at the center stage. What specifically is the role of women at the household level in addressing most of the challenges we have in our communities? And when I say WASH, I mean like water, sanitation, and hygiene, just for those who are outside of the development space and may not understand the acronym. And so thanks again, James, and I'm happy to be spending the next 1 hour, 30 minutes with you, your key participants. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damba, again. And we're just going to dive into our first question for the day. So thank you, Damba. This is like a continuation also to last section. So I might be recapping some of the things that we have asked. But one of the things I've also realized, and as a privileged person also who have been in leadership position over the last 10 years of my career, one of the weaknesses in leadership are leaders not able to make tough decisions in tough times and to hold their team accountable to the results that they have committed to. Have you had such experience in your leadership journey? And how are you able to address the situation? Thank you.
All right, so James, I would say this is really an important one. And I guess one important aspect of our journey as leaders, you can't actually skip. There are always going to be times you would need to make these decisions. And I'll say these are really the periods when our role as leaders count. And then I guess one of the things I always remind myself is, and I always tell people that leadership is a mindset game. If you get the mindset right, then you are really ready and prepared to respond to issues as it happens, right? A typical leader is really always looking for an opportunity to be smiling with everyone, making everyone feel so happy. But then that is not always going to be the case. And in instances like this, I always remind myself that what feels nice is not always nice. And what is nice does not always feel nice. Like an example is sugar tastes nice in the when you are taking it, but it can also give you diabetes. And so and sometimes when you are also sick, the sort of treatment you need to go through doesn't actually feel nice, but that is actually what you need in order to survive. And so a leader's key role is not to be short-sighted, but to be someone who has a long-term view of what is happening. So if you decide that you are going to skip all the tough decisions today, then you are going to crash the entire organization. At any point in time, ask yourself that, okay, why do I have to make this decision? Is there any other way I could actually skip this decision? If no, then you have a role to look into, if I were to make that decision, what will be the benefit? And so mostly when you are making some of these tough decisions, instead of just focusing on the relationship aspect, because once we find ourselves in an organization, we have to deal with the relationship aspect as well as the resource part. And so if you can find a way for both the relationship and the resource to work together, it makes life easier. But always find a way that the resource does not compromise the relationship, neither should the relationship compromise on the resource. And so if you would have to make a tough decision, say that it is going to serve the broader interests of the organization, you would have to make that. Short-sightedness is deciding to skip the tough decision so that you can actually make everybody happy today. But long-sightedness is making that tough decision, even if it means that you are going to be alone for a period. But making sure that any decision you make represents the interest of the organization and also align with the integrity with which you would have to lead as a leader is really, really, really important. So I've had instances where I would have to make those decisions. And in all those situations, I make sure I articulate what is the challenge and let people understand that this is the challenge, this is why the challenge exists, this is what we have to do, And this is going to be the effect if we do not do that thing. So once you are able to actually articulate what the challenge is, then it is up to you to now make the decision. Mind you, that is not going to take away like that emotional torture of having to make a decision. That is not something you like, but you still have to show up as the leader to make that decision and to actually challenge the team that they should really trust you on that. And as much as possible, try to share whatever the people should know. And as leaders, I always say that we also have what we call a privilege information, certain times where you have to make a decision without revealing everything to the rest of the team. And so those are really some of the tough ones. So like people only saw the decision you made, but the entire reason for making that decision, you can't actually share all of that to them because they are privileged information they are not supposed to have. And so at any point in time, make that decision and let the team understand that I am giving you what you should know about that decision. And I want you to trust that I did what I did in the interest of the organization. I think James, myself, you and others at ID Ghana we've had instances to make tough decisions, right?
Yeah.
Some of those decisions, which would even at some point compromise our relationship for this, but we will actually have to come back and remind ourselves that we didn't really build the relationship to affect the organization, but rather to support us in a way that powered the organization to move forward. So decisions are always going to be tough, but you don't have a choice as a leader. You have to make it. And just make sure that you're actually doing it in line with integrity and a way of expressing the values, your personal values, and the values of the entire organization. That is actually one of the most important things. It will be sad sometimes, but you just have to make it. I think we've had that experience, and a lot of people on the call have had privilege opportunities to be part of decision-making membership where they had to make tough decisions. Yeah. And in all, we actually acknowledge ourselves for standing up to do that in the interest of the broader team and also the organization.
Thank you so much, Damba, for that. I think you kind of really highlight the key aspect of the decision-making factors and all of that. And that was going to take me to my second question, which is, I have learned that leadership capacity can be sustained based on the investment that leaders make in themselves. Many leaders continue to share their years of experience and less of expertise in their field. And you know, these are some of the things I've seen, Damba, where we are currently in a situation where leaders continue, you know, and organizations even continue to make these mistakes where they continue to recruit people with the best of CVs. Yes, these people have a lot of experience. You look at CVs and you see people achieving a lot of both experience or working in and giving numbers of years. But in actual sense, their expertise in the field is kind of challenging. And sometimes this is as a result of leaders not willing to invest in themselves. And the worrying part, number, is that these individuals hold high-level positions, high-level, you know, they get the best pay, you know. Now, my question on this is that why do we have leaders failing to improve themselves and investing in their leadership capacity, or sometimes they wait for the organization to pay for their leadership development? I did remember there was a time during our section, I think there was something I shared, and I was telling the participant that sometimes we need to be very honest with ourselves that many of us, our organizations have even been extremely fair to us. We have been employees for the last 2-3 years. Our salaries have never remained the same. Our benefits have never remained the same. It has changed. But the same individual of us, we have failed to add value to ourselves. The same experience we brought as at the time they recruited us, no personal development, no self-improvement, and you have people for years counting numbers. Do you know how many years I've been in this organization? But the improvement part has been zero. So why do we have that? And why are organizations making such mistakes, focusing on experience and avoid and ignoring the expertise aspect? Thank you.
All right, so I guess, James, that is a very good question, right? I always say, like, if you look at leadership, you can actually break it into, we have like one aspect, which is the title, right? Country Director, Director of Finance and Operations, a very beautiful title. Director of this. I see it as the container, right? But the substance is what you do with that title, right? And so like that is mostly like one of the key challenges we've had. Like if you are actually glorifying the container, then you are actually made to believe that, okay, I know what I know, and that is why I'm actually in the position I'm holding. And so like once you hold that position of, I am the type who knows what I know, you are going to actually be in a terrible situation and put your organization in a very terrible situation. You need to shift your mindset from being someone who knows to someone who is ready to learn. Because like assuming you know is a position of arrogance. Because you're actually saying that, okay, the world is as I see it. But a person in a position of humility would always assume that there is something to learn from everyone I'll ever meet on earth. And so like they meet everyone with the mindset to learn from them. And so like the best way for you to lead is to be a student of life and to see your organization as an educational institution where your relationship with the organization is not just, I'm going to deliver this and you pay me at the end of the month. Your organization is just an institution that should also transform you to the next level of who you want to be. And so like, as you go through all of this, the challenges you face in your organization, the challenges you face in your leadership are the unique opportunities you have to learn, right? And so like, I guess no one will ever recruit any person with the assumption that you have everything I need and this is all that I need from you. Every organization is aspirational. And so you always have to ask yourself, what is it that I am delivering today? What is the next thing I want to deliver tomorrow? And what do I need to have in order to be able to deliver that? And these are the kind of things you need just to guide yourself on. What is the kind of learnings I need to support myself in that groove? And so like, I would say like most leaders are actually stuck because they are cycling the knowledge they had from years ago. And so like, and there is that balance between exploitation and exploration, right? And exploitation is when you actually try to take out everything from the little that you have. And exploration is when you begin to ask yourself, when do I need to build on new skills? When do I need to build on new knowledge, such that I can begin to do what I couldn't do? And so like one of the mantra I always, I think like I've always brought it to anybody being onboarded at ID, and I would possibly share that with you. James, you can share it with your team. I actually had it from my role model, Fred Kaufman. He says to have, you must do. And to do, you must be someone capable of doing. So like, so everything you ever want to have in life, you must do something to give you that thing. And for you to be able to do that thing, you must be someone capable of doing it. And so like, whatever you see is, whatever you have is an effect. How did you actually get that? It's because you have been able to do what you couldn't do. And for you to be able to do that, you need to be someone who builds the capability to be able to do that. And so you would see that an organization is stuck. The same resource is generated in the organization for a very long period because they have not actually changed or updated their operating model. They continue to do the same thing and continue to get the same results. And so for them to change how they do, then they need to build new skills. So you build new capabilities so that you do things differently and have an updated resource. And so most of leaders are like, okay, I had this position because I am the most qualified. But ideally, that is not the reason. You have the position because you have demonstrated the right attitude that if you are given the position, you can actually challenge yourself to exceed what is expected of you in that position. And so if you actually lost out in learning, if you lost out in actually engaging, then you are going to be in the business of over exploiting the little that you have instead of exploring new knowledge, engaging new people, building new expertise, building new experience to support the broader service. And you would agree with me, James, that there was this common phrase at IP that knowledge, that experience without new knowledge can actually be insanity. So like at some point you think you have experience, but what you have is insanity. And so like, because you continue to tell people that this is how we've been doing it, forgetting that your organization is really not the role model anyone outside should want to be like. And so how are you able to ensure that you really don't move to that point where like you are no longer expressing your experience, but rather imposing your insanity to your organization because you've refused to update your operating model, which supports the organization. And your confidence over time dwindles if you continue to hang on to the past knowledge as a basis to run an organization. Yeah, every leader needs to build that attitude to learn and to integrate it as an essential piece on a personal level and also at an organizational level. And you shouldn't actually just wait for the organization to always be the one to support you. There are free courses online. All you just need is YouTube is free and you can actually power yourself to be anything within 2 weeks. I believe in the power of 2 weeks, and I have always maintained that as a very strong case to people. Within 2 weeks, you can be whoever you want to be.
Thank you so much, Damba, for providing very much details on this. I mean, for the need for investment, and people should take ownership and responsibility on that. And I even like the word that you've said, where you said people that bring in experience and they want to showcase experience in their current job is an attitude of insanity, because, you know, the world keeps transforming. I think the level of changes in information, they said it accelerates even beyond, you know, and a new information that you have today could be an old information after 6 months. That's how fast the world is running. And when we refuse to keep updating and improving ourselves, it becomes a challenge. Thanks again for that. I know again for our participants, for those joining for the first time or you're joining again, we just want to welcome you and to let you know that we're going to take questions. Please put together your questions. We'll take questions at the end of this section. And as we continue also engaging with Mr. Damba on this. My next question to Mr. Damba is that it is clear that organizations are expected to have good systems in place and culture that promotes organizational values towards achieving the set goals. And for me particularly, I have realized that no system or culture can function effectively without the people. And this brings the aspect of leadership and responsibility. And you know, sometimes, Mr. Damba, one of the challenges I've continued to see is that people are in the work sector, in the business sector, even in the political sector, in public sector, in all aspects, our responsibility sits with the leader. And sometimes those that are the followers, those that are the employees, those that are the co-laborers, the team, they at times fail to also understand that in their specific unit, there is that aspect of responsibility that they also need to exhibit or showcase that support the culture, the systems of the organization. So my question is, how can everyone see themselves as leaders, willing to take responsibilities and become effective in their various position levels within an organization? Because this has always been an issue. So people tend to always put a blame on everyone. People tend to say, oh, it is this person that is not doing this thing, and forgetting the fact that sometimes it's not about the people, it's about us. So how can we fix this?
All right. So James, that is a very good one. So James, if you look at the word responsibility, if you were to break it, you are going to see two words, right? Responsibility, right? So if you were to break it, that is the two words you are going to get. Responsibility, if you were to flip the two words, you are going to get ability to respond, right? Things will always happen to us. We don't have control over everything that happens to us, but we are always going to be in absolute control on how we respond. And so and that is responsibility. So responsibility is always going to be like the ability you have to respond, irrespective of whether the issue is as a result of your negligence or it is caused by another person. So like at any point in time, when you are actually faced with a challenge or when you are faced with anything to actually go for, you have to, you have two positions, either to act like a victim or to be the player. I could say that, okay, I am late for the meeting because before James, I was telling you that I had to leave the house to come to the office because the network in the house wasn't good. I could stay back home and every 2 seconds I'm going to fall out of the call and tell you that, oh, it is not my fault. It is the fault of the internet, right? What does it give me? At least it gives me an excuse, but what does it make me? It makes me impotent, right? So when I want to be a victim, the price for being a victim is impotence. But I decided to do what? Take up the responsibility of changing a location, right? I don't control the internet in my house, but at least I have an absolute control of how I respond to the issue. And the best way for me to respond to the issue is to move to the office where I know that the internet is highly stable. So I could have decided to be a victim. In that case, I'm going to blame the internet. Is it still going to solve the issue? No. But I decided to be the player, to play the psychology of a player, where I acknowledge that, okay, there is an issue which is not my fault, but I have been empowered enough to respond in a way that serves my need. And so that is mostly the thing. So leadership and responsibility are actually two keywords. Every leader has a role. You have a role, there is always an intent to move from position A to position B. And for you to move from position A to position B, whatever is it that you want to achieve, there are going to be roadblocks. And in that roadblocks, there are going to be real issues which are outside of you, which actually created those roadblocks. And at any point in time, you could decide to say that, okay, I really wanted to move this agenda from position A to position B, but there was actually this here and this here and this here and this here. When people hear that, will they blame you? Will they say you are wrong? No, there was actually that roadblocks. But does it actually support you in moving from A to B? No. And so at any point in time, you have to remind yourself that you can decide to act like a victim. In that case, you are going to have an excuse for why you didn't do anything. Or you can decide to be the player, in which case it doesn't matter where the challenge is coming from. You are going to act in a way that represents what you want. Because at the end of the day, our action does not guarantee our desired results. But what it guarantees is that we would have done what we needed to do, saying that even if we don't get the results, we are not going to actually regret our actions, right? You look at regret, you look at disappointment, they are all at the same direction. But disappointment is on an outcome which you don't entirely control. But regret is always related to the fact that there was another thing you could have done which you didn't do. So how do you ensure that the aspect of your work which is related to you, you do that and hope that the other aspect which you can only influence but cannot entirely control is also influenced in the best way possible of you. So I'll tell you that responsibility is always going to be our ability to respond. You can decide to be the leader or the staff who would always give an excuse for why something didn't work, or you can decide to be the player where it doesn't matter where the problem is coming from. You are going to act in a way that is going to support this. And I'm happy that I've been able to use this classical example of moving to the office as a way to address this. Instead of sitting here and saying sorry to everyone that my internet is not good, I responded by visiting the office. Yeah, and that is the best I could do to be in control of the situation and the outcome I'm willing to achieve. I think that is just what is mostly missing in leadership. Do I want to give an excuse, or do I want to act like a player who will always do what will honor me, not put me in a position for nobody to blame me?
Thank you so much, Damba. I mean, the way you have put it has really, really helped, even sharing the narrative of just your experience today. And one of the things I've observed is that this has been a challenge across board. I mean, in every nation, in Nigeria, we have this as a problem. In Ghana, in everywhere, even in US, it's not about our skin, is not about our location. I think it's just a personal attitude that people need to change. And just as you've said it, that it does not matter your position, it does not matter your role, as low as whatever position it could be in an organization, every one of us can take that responsibility of our leadership. And this is the intention for this section. I mean, this is where we are bringing it on board. We are not just trying to showcase leadership towards this, because the systems and culture has to do with people. And people need to start understanding that they are the critical elements in systems and culture for it to function well. And our ability to make a system and culture to operate effectively has to do with how we are able to, just to give there are several examples I could share on this, but just for the sake of time, I think we may just go to the next question. Thank you again, Damba. So our next question, this is two questions in this particular group. So we'll take them one after the other, because we just want to really, really maximize the benefit of the questions. The first question, and this has to do with dealing with challenges. So here I said, how can leaders transition from their current successes or challenges to the next challenge without thinking of exit? And Damba, one of the reasons I've seen is that many leaders, they are, now, just before I say this, I held a section prior to this section, prior to this topic on leadership, we did a topic on building relevance in business and in careers. And I was able to, develop the introduction from the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. And one of the research that Jim Collins and his team were able to draw out is that every organization that moved from good to great, one of their secrets was that their leadership that made those organizations become great were people within the organization. So they did not, within 1 to 10 companies, you can barely have only one that were celebrated leaders that make an organization become great. Any organizations that have been great were people within the organization. Now you now have leaders or emerging leaders, and when it gets to the tough moment, the next thing they think of is to run away, to go and get another job. And people are not ready to face challenges or to, it could be finance, whatever in organization. And I've seen this happening in different situations in different times. And sometimes people may not even think of exiting, but they will just give up. How do leaders transition themselves that even in the midst of challenges, or even in their success also, because sometimes success could also be a challenge where people have achieved or they've attained success and they feel that is all, and they fail to continue to improve, understanding that what, just like you said in the book the last time you talked, you said what got you here is never going to get you there. So that people can understand that the success that got them here cannot still be the success that will maintain them to the next phase. So how do we get leaders changing their mindset and transitioning in each of these phases? Thank you.
Yeah, James, that is a very good one. I once saw a quote that says that the cave you fear to enter hold the treasure you desire, right? It is very common for people to just be interested in the party days, right?
Yeah.
The moments when you have to celebrate. And when the tough phases come, they really don't understand that they are just actually phases to actually not just for them to transition the organization, for them to also become unique beings they never actually thought they could, right? Because from a challenge, a champion is made.
Yeah.
And it only takes for you to be able to go through a challenge, to be that unique person who can actually do what? Serve at that unique level. That is why, like, when you are going to go even for any job interview, they try to ask you challenging questions. Your ability to get the job is your ability to respond to those challenging questions. And I doubt if anyone going for an interview and being asked that, why are you running away from your organization? And you indicate that I'm running from the organization because the organization has actually gotten to that challenging phase. Anyone will actually take you serious. And so, like, it tells you that when you are actually going through a challenge, it's just a medium for you to become who you've never actually ever been. The mental flexibility, the uniqueness in experience you build after going through that is really one thing you can't actually even you can't even sit in a classroom. You can't actually access it anywhere because it takes experience to actually build some of those unique opportunities. And so, like, I always remind, like, currently the team is working on supporting women to become entrepreneurs. And so part of what they do is they support the women to build their vision board. And I've had like a call with about 2 of these women. And I told them that they are going to go through 3 phases: the hope, the fear, and the power. And so, like, whenever you are starting something, you start with so much hope. That is why, like, it's very easy for anyone to actually start a business. Then after some time, the business is going to be faced with some challenges. About 80% to 90% of people are going to drop off at that time. But what they're actually failing to understand is it is actually a journey to the top. You can't just start with hope, power. No. When you touch on hope, your hope is going to dwindle. You go through a challenge. And from that challenge, they can now assess your power. If it is going to be that easy, everyone would have actually been on the top. And so, like, if you always remind yourself, and James, let me tell you one important thing I've ever had, like, with Kerry. Like, I've ever had, like, a time with Kerry when we were in a meeting and laughing so high, and then she told me that, okay, Damba, this is a very nice one. I wish, like, we always have, like, our moments will always be like this. But in reality, there are going to be times when, like, we are not going to be laughing. But whenever we go through that phase, let's always remind ourselves that we are actually still doing it in the best of spirit. So, like, just reminding yourself that there are going to be happy moments, there are going to be tough moments, and in that tough moments, you are going to be able to learn better than you could even learn in the happy moment, so that you become even a better person you've never ever had to be. And so, like, challenge is inevitable if you want to be a leader. Challenge is inevitable because as a champion, you have to go through a challenge to become that champion. And so, like, going through a challenge is just an indication that you are just being prepared for the next big level of opportunity. You shouldn't actually be running away from challenge. You should really face it all chest out, and you should really be that person who is going to be like, okay, this is a challenge, but I choose to see it the way I want to see it. And I have chosen to see it as an opportunity for me to do something unique and for me to also become something I've never, ever had an opportunity to be. And so, like, it takes a mindset, but a victim, as I said earlier on, will run away during a challenge. A player will respond in the right way. A player will say, like, okay, these are the reasons why I'm actually in this role. And if there is anyone to serve, I have to demonstrate my originality in offering something so unique, such that it is able to support the broader team instead of running away from them at this time. I guess like that is just something to touch. And also for success, I think it is clear. At any point in time, every success is expected to be a build-up to another success. And every success we actually like, because success is just an intermediary point to significance. Success is just like celebrating what you've been able to achieve as a person. But significance is drifting to that position where, like, moving to that position where you are no longer celebrating yourself as a person, but celebrating yourself as a gift to humanity, because every significant thing serves humanity, but not just itself.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Damba. And
Right.
just building on that, on the second question here is now, and I know you've kind of touched a brief around that. How are you able to manage challenging moments in your own leadership journey? And what did you do to overcome such challenges? Because let's admit the fact that you have also faced challenges even in your current position. Why have you not think of exiting?
Okay, I think Stoics they have a phrase they say that this one too shall pass.
Mm.
Like everything, like he always like I've read a lot about Marcus Aurelius. So Marcus Aurelius was one of I guess he was one of the Roman emperors. Like every day he will remind himself that whatever challenge he goes through, he reminds himself that this one too shall pass. And then if you always look back at everything, like the complexities you've had to deal in the past, some of which you said like, this is going to consume me. Then today you sit, look at it, and you are laughing over it. And then some of the experiences you are going to draw to actually address other issues in the future are going to be based on that. It's just a clear indication that every challenge has an expiry date. And so just have to make sure that it doesn't expire you. Just outlive it. Like chase it to its expiry date and let it know that you have the opportunity to win. And I always say that I try as much as I can not to be like a unicorn. Like I have like a very big team, a team of intelligent guys who are always willing to support. Open up, share with them, formally, informally, get around it with good intent. Narrow, like select a few more after taking a lot of information, assign them that task, and you'll be amazed to see that just what you thought was a challenge was actually just a mirage. Nothing really exists on casted stone. Yeah, I face it. I remind myself that everything passes and this one too shall pass. It helps me a lot. Like priming my mindset to deal with it is the first thing, and the winner card for me mostly. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Damba. And I think we're doing good on time also. So the next question also I have is in promoting excellence and diversity. So the question here is, how can leaders sustain transformational leadership and be creative to always strive for excellence in every task they handle towards creating an impact?
I would say like transformational leadership should be the pinnacle of leadership. So it is that stage where you are actually not holding anything constant, but actually creating that mental flexibility to see things in multiple ways. And you shouldn't really just focus your results on what you are able to achieve for the donor or what you're able to achieve as a profit or for your business, but looking at who are the staff also becoming, right? Because I think you've mentioned like culture a number of times. And whenever you think of culture, then the next thing that comes to mind is people, right? And then you really want to make sure that you are not just a leader who finds a way for the organization to generate results. You are that kind of leader who is supporting the team, said that each of the team members are not just good at getting the outcome, but becoming the outcome itself. When I say becoming the outcome, like, because if you are aiming for excellence, the people should also be excellent. And how can they actually be excellent? You really don't let them focus on getting the results, but also giving them an opportunity to understand the how behind getting the result. And I think every transformational leader has one agenda. to train their team such that they make him become useless. Because the time I'm going to really celebrate, like my end goal at IDE Ghana as a country director is to get to that point where like it doesn't really make sense for IDE Ghana to continue to pay me when there are actually 1, 2, or 3 others who can actually do what I am doing. Because that is it. So like I have to, you have to train someone to take up your job so that you can also take up another one. So how do I actually grow these people to that point, such that my role becomes useless because they are able to do those things? And if I only focus on the results, then what is going to happen is telling people at the 11th hour that, can you put this thing here, turn it here, move it here, and let us have it here. Then bring them together to celebrate. No, my celebration is always on. How do you feel about it? What else do you feel you can use this approach to address? And so when I go through a session with someone, even I could be going home and still call the person and like, okay, what do you think about how we approach it? Are there other ways you feel you could actually use it? Because for me, it's not on the outcome. What I'm actually selling to every staff is the operating model, like the mindset game, saying that tomorrow they can actually adapt that operating model to do whatever they will need to be able to do. A transformational leader should definitely be building teams that deliver excellence, not just focusing on the outcome. And so you should build in your culture the unique opportunity to challenge people, to become creative, and to be a better version of whoever they can be in how they deliver, like in how they deliver, not just the results they deliver, even on the how they deliver that results.
Thank you so much. I like the aspect where you talked about, your team taking responsibility and becoming excellent to the point that your job becomes useless. I mean, that's the fact, and that's the kind of a mindset, that you as a personality you've been able to build in yourself, which many leaders are kind of scared of. Many people are so protective of that role and forgetting the fact that until they have someone to take that position, because they also need to grow, and they also have to grow others so that they also can grow. And I appreciate the way you've just analyzed that. The second question is on diversity. How can leaders promote diversity within their leadership teams? That is, to have people who think in an exceptional way and solution-oriented personalities, bringing in different perspectives to issues that affects the organization. And then, but the reason I brought this question is because sometimes I think teams also need to understand that as leaders, they want to have people within their team that have a different opinions. Many of us as leaders, we get unsettled when our opinion is always the opinion that strikes, and sometimes this is maybe as a result of culture, particularly from the African setup. People have that background where they don't question things, they don't ask questions, they don't do things. Even in religious setup, anything a leader in a religious setup says, whether true or not, everybody accepts it. In organization, is the same kind of mindset. But how can we promote? And we are not trying to create a situation where there is chaos, where there is challenges, but harnessing the fact that everybody has a perspective and they can bring with the primary goal of result-oriented, solution-oriented, achieving the organizational objective, but bringing in innovative and creative thinking in how they address that. Thank you.
Yeah, so James, that is a good one. I think you know that there is, in humility, we always remind ourselves that we see the world as we are, not as it is. And so when you acknowledge that, you would understand that how you see the world is limited if you are not incorporating the views of how others also see the world. And so like if I look at your question, I see it as divergence and convergence. So like if you are all thinking in the same direction, it is like we are all just hitting at the same place. So like you might actually like engage in a meeting, share a lot of ideas, but they are all actually oriented to the same thing. It takes someone from another orientation to share a thought you wouldn't have actually thought of. So like an example, if all your senior leadership are made up of only males, there are going to be certain aspirations or challenges identified with females, which is always going to be missing in the final product you deliver for the broader team, because you really don't have someone within your team who pays attention to that. If all your team is made up of people from the same religion, there is that missed opportunity for diversity across there, like diversity in views across different religious sects. Like you can actually look at diversity in any way, even within the hierarchical structure within an organization. Think like it's not every meeting you should only have like leaders. There are going to be some meetings where like as others are engaging their thought at the strategic level, who is also ground proving your idea. So diversity is just like one key element everyone would need to really pay so much attention to. And the best way to always look at a solution is to see it in the form of a funnel, right? The top of a funnel is very wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is, you begin with diversity before you converge on the best outcome. And so like diversity presents that opportunity for you to open up or widen your thoughts domain, such that other ideas you would have missed out, you have an opportunity to collect all of them and then to evaluate all of them. Because once you collect every information, then you now begin to ask, why is this important? And through that, you are able to build the right relevant connections, such that at the end, you have a solution which is inclusive of all the diverse nature of whatever you are actually dealing with. These are just part of the reasons why leaders should promote diversity, right? James, look at it that way. Just look at the funnel. If you were just going to have only the tip part of the funnel as the source from which you pour water, will you be able to get any water? No. So the diversity opens up an opportunity for you to take information in different directions, delay judgment, get more information, then evaluate all the thoughts, build the right connections, and come up with the solution at like the tip end of a filter, of a funnel, which represents the different aspirations, challenges, or whatever you are dealing with as a team. So like at any point in time, the best way to deal with diversity is to look at who else could be impacted or has a stake in this and how are they represented here. You can look at it in programmatic activities. You can look at it in the form of, do we have like the physically challenged? Do we have the youth? Do we have this? Within your team, you can look at male, female, all the different aspects you could miss out, which will deny you an opportunity to get a perspective that is inclusive of that group is really like an important one. And being intentional about going for diversity is one of the most important things you should do. And building possibly KPIs for that. At ID, you will see that we ensure that there is actually some representation of both males and females, and looking at who else should actually be playing a role in another place, which is currently missing. So those are just like ways you can look at diversity, and why diversity is not just like a buzzword everybody wants to like get on board with, but something really important, thinking of a funnel and how it opens up and gives you an opportunity to focus in a way that is serving a broader domain. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Damba. And I like the way you've kind of captured both questions. Thank you. And just for our participant, please put down your questions, and you can even start dropping your questions on Zoom. On the chat box, kindly drop your questions. We're going to go through them, and we're going to give unmute you when the time comes for you also. If you want to ask verbally, we will provide that, but you can drop your questions on the chat box. That way we can respond to it quickly. For those on WhatsApp, we are having a very large numbers of participants on WhatsApp. Close to over 30 people have joined, and I think that's our maximum limit. So please, if you have anyone that still wants to join on WhatsApp, I don't think we have that limit again. And I may need to explore how to expand the WhatsApp platform. And we still have over, the Zoom platform gives us over 100 people that can join. And I think we are still within 30 or more people on Zoom at the moment. So please inform any of your colleagues or friends that intend to join. They can still join via Zoom, not on WhatsApp. But thank you so much, Damba. And our next question, even as we're working towards rounding up my questions and giving room for our participants to ask their question. And please, as I said, people should start putting down their questions on the chat box on the Zoom platform. How can leaders become a river and not a reservoir? And I know in between our engagement today, you've kind of shared that, but I just want to share, add to that. And what I mean here is, as a river, how can leaders build a ladder for others to climb and to continue to mentor others in leadership responsibility?
All right. I guess one of the role of every leader is, I would say, like, to remind people on the importance of learning. I guess that is, for me, that is just going to be like, if you are blessed to be a person who would always pick a book to learn, if you are blessed to be the person in a room who will hear someone speak and then follow up with the person to ask, like, okay, you asked of this, can I understand a bit more on that? Can I call you back just to have like 20 minutes of your time? Can I ask you if you can actually build that mindset, it is an assurance that you are expected to lead. That the more you learn, the more you know you don't know. And as soon as you continue to know you don't know, because it is like, James, you've mentioned it, like knowledge is like a river. And if you find yourself in a reservoir, right, like a small poly tank, you assume that, okay, that is just the wall. I think I have everything I need. It takes until you throw yourself into that river. Then you suddenly learn that, okay, there is just so much I don't know. And it is only the person who learns, who acknowledges how little they know. And so, like, supporting your team to understand the importance of learning, transitioning from being knowers to learners, for me, is really like an important one. The other thing is just supporting your team in the best way possible, not just to deliver on the outcome, but to understand how things work, right? Going back to my phrase again, to have you must do and to do you must be. The role of a leader to support the team to become individuals who are capable of doing something novel to generate the best of results, not just being people who can actually hold the result to celebrate. Give them an opportunity to understand how it is done, and for them to understand that they need to build that capability to do that. And so professional development is an important part of being a leader or supporting your leadership team grow, challenging them to take up new tasks, even if it falls outside of their original competence domain, is also a very, very important one. Challenge them. Don't always leave them. Do not allow them to only operate within their comfort zone. I tell my team that sometimes I bring you to the bridge and then I push you. Then suddenly you are able to jump the bridge and you are like, I never knew I could jump this bridge, because there is a hidden potential trapped inside you. And my role is really to give you that blues so that you can actually bring that thing out. And so, like, definitely not a reservoir. A reservoir, you would acknowledge that the little we have is what we need, and that is how we've been doing it. But as a river, you are going to acknowledge how little we have as an organization and how even little you have as a person, so that in your tribe to grow yourself, you would also be growing the organization. But as much as possible, if you can also get a coach, it's very, very important for every young person. Get a coach, get someone you periodically speak with professionally, and just be humble to learn from them.
Thank you so much, Damba, for the question. And I think our next question to you is how are you able to set boundaries to avoid situation of your personal interest conflicting with the organizational interest or public interest? So, and here we also understand that one of the weaknesses in leadership is inability to set boundaries. And sometimes we make decisions for our personal interest. Sometimes we make decisions that conflict with the culture and the values of the organizations, you know. So how do we set that boundaries?
Okay. The best way to set boundaries is actually to also define your personal values. So one of my personal values are peace of mind is priceless. And so like with this, at any time you bring anything, I'm going to sort it against my peace of mind. If it doesn't matter what I'm going to get out of it. If it is not going to give me my peace of mind, then I'm not on board. And so like, think of it in any way. Like, you bring an idea to me, then I'm like, okay, this is what you want me to do. But is it going to compromise? What would be the effect today? What would be the effect long term? The only time I get on board is if it doesn't have any form of effect to me in any form. Because the work, I would say, like, is beautiful and challenging, but I always want to go back home and be fine. I don't want to live a life where I have a cobweb, which like you call me middle of the night and I'm like, okay, why are they calling me? Is it that they've revealed the secret of me? I try as much as I can to live that peaceful life. So peace of mind is actually a guiding factor that helps me that, okay, do not be in a hurry. Like take things slow, enjoy the moment, live a life of meaning, and let it be your guiding principle in ensuring that there is like a clear boundary. If you are going to push me to do anything, all I ask myself is it going to compromise my peace of mind? And I would say, like James, you would note that that is really part of the reasons why most leaders are actually challenged financially, right?
Yes.
You could see like a leader who is being compromised. Like, okay, why don't you, like, there is an opportunity for you to make this money. I would not even fantasize it because, like, when I compare making money, which is not mine, to having my peace of mind to go back home and having never to think about something coming up 3 years, 1 year, or this, I will never ever be willing to compromise on that. So these are like, because the work is challenging, but I always want to go back home and be able to enjoy my time with my family. I don't want to have to look back at any time. That is one thing I do. The other thing that also helps me is from the spiritual dimension is just trying to make sure that most of my activities are in harmony with my maker, right? Especially when I'm dealing with my fellow human being. Like in my religion, I'm made to understand that it is okay for you to sin against God, but not against your fellow human being. And so like part of what I try to do is to make sure that how am I living my life such that I don't have to account for the misfortune of another person because I had a hand in it. If it is between myself and God, we can actually, yeah, we can handle it from that end. So that is part of the things, like from the spiritual angle, trying to make sure that there is that higher alignment between myself and God in relation to how I deal with others. And so like from the other angle, my peace of mind, using that as a backing principle to ensure that should I do this? Should I not do this? If I have committed to a donor that I'm going to achieve this, if the donor gets on the ground and it is not done, how is it going to be like? How can I actually use that as a basis to push for my team to do the right thing? Because I don't want to compromise my happiness because a donor is going to be in the field the next week. These are just some of the boundaries I try to use as a basis to guide myself. But I'll just say that like the best way for anyone to set boundaries is to first of all define your values and try to align with those values. If honesty is your value, then make sure that everything you are going to do, like your boundaries should actually be centered on those values. And
Yes.
lack of integrity is acting outside of your values. That is, yeah, if you lack integrity, then you don't have boundaries. And it means that you don't even have values. You are just actually holding something against your name. So those are the things I would really touch on. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Damba. I think I have my last question, and after that, we give room for the participants. And the last question here that I have is so, Damba, thank you. There are many people listening to you and they wish to achieve success in life. What would you advise such people to do to achieve success and create a sustainable impact in their field?
Yeah, to achieve success, there are actually like a lot of things to do. And just pick one or two and then make it work for you. First is you need prayers. When you pray, ask for grace. And when you like, I believe in cosmic shortcuts. When you pray, what God does is a journey you should have made in 20 years, He can actually let you have it in a year. That is cosmic shortcut. When you pray, be intentional about it. That is actually a word I heard, which I like so much. Like, ask God to shorten your journey, not asking how long you are going to stay here, but shorten your journey in assessing every favor you want from Him. Seek His cosmic shortcut, right? Like what others will do in 5 years, ask God to give you the grace to be able to do it in a year. What will take people, like an exam that will take people 1 year to write, seek God's grace so that you can actually even prepare and write it in a month.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, seek God's grace so that you can actually at the age of 30, like in the domain of wisdom, be identified as someone who is 80 years. And what that means is that you could actually be working on this earth with a 30 years old number, but actually running the race that matches people who have been here for 80 years. All of these are like part of grace. I would say like you should do. Then aside from that, put in hard work and faith, right? Because it is only people who have faith that put in hard work, because you're actually saying that faith is believing that it is going to happen, even if you don't know how it's going to happen. And so like, how do you actually do that which you are expected to do? Learn. Trust in your guts. Like, draw a vision, aim for it, and then put in the effort. Then the universe will find a way to reconstruct itself in your favor. But I'll say like, pray, learn hard, do the hard work, and just have faith. I would say like these are really the things like the broader containers I could speak of. But aside from that, every other value you can think of on earth will actually lead you to your success. Humility, respect, belonging, any value that is connected to something meaningful on earth takes you to success. But maybe prayer and hard work, faith would be the ones I will filter out for people to pay more attention.
Yeah, thank you so much, Damba. And I like the aspect where you've taken even it from the spiritual angle, because we just need to acknowledge the fact that first, every one of us here, there is a reason why we are here. And one of our reasons is first to fulfill God's mission on us on this earth. And if God is the one that is our source, we must always go back to Him. And I appreciate the fact that Damba is clear around this. And this is where many people need to understand that you cannot take away the God factor in your journey. It's going to be too risky. Yes, you may give examples. And one of the things people keep saying is that, oh, but these other people are achieving success, but they don't know God. But you are only seeing them from the far. You don't have that close intimacy to know how they run their lives. So they may come on a social media, they don't go to church, they don't go to mosques, they don't serve any of the religions, but you don't know what they do at the behind the scene. So all I will say is that please, the God factor is critical for any emerging leader, for anyone to build success. Additionally, as Damba had said, your faith, your hard work, building capacity are critical. I mean, I just want to add a bit again to that is that please let's invest in ourselves. You did hear many in the last section, Damba did talked about him already reading over 60 books. This is not joke. This tells us the level of time and effort, discipline nature that he's creating, just because he wants to keep adding value. So to achieve success is no joke. I was telling myself and my wife, we were sharing something, just a few days ago, and I was telling her that I have already made an investment of over $10,000 this year on personal development. Now, that's so much a huge amount, and it's not just an easy money. It took me so much of effort to attain that because I knew where I'm going. So these are the kind of things that we need to understand, that success, as many people, and there is this statement, and I just want to share that I know, for instance, like with Damba, with myself, or any other leaders, sometimes people could be envying how are they able to get there? Is it by luck? The reality is that there is no luck anywhere. If you need to understand the sacrifices and that many people go through to get to where they are. There is one of my mentor that this says that please do not envy my success, rather envy my hustle. So please, everyone here, let's start envying the hustle. What is the sin? What is the thing behind that people do to get to that where they should get? And Damba, I just want to thank you for that. And I know there are questions, so now we're giving room for participants to ask questions. For those on WhatsApp, please, if you have questions, you can just let me know, and I can you can unmute yourself. But I've already seen a question already on the chat box. And for those on Zoom, please raise your hand up. When you do, I am going to unmute you to ask your questions. We had 2 questions already on Zoom, and I will take them quickly. The first question is from Ebenezer Kwache, and he's asking, please, how can a leader tell if a team member is not fit in the organization again and should be let go?
All right, so Ebenezer Kwachi, I guess I would use the indicator that the role of leaders are actually to deploy the right people to the right seat, right? And then define right people are people who are aligned with the core values of the organization. And the right seat will be like people with the right competence to support the cause of the organization, right? One of the things if someone doesn't align with the values of the organization, then the person is not fit for the organization. You have to let the person go, because you're actually measuring the person on attitude, right? But if it is about competence, one of the key opportunities you have is to explore where the key challenge is, because finding the right people with the right values aligned with the organization is mostly the key challenge, right? And so if you are able to find someone you believe that, okay, this person believes in the culture of the organization, this person is operating such that it is actually supporting the broader team. One of the things you could actually look out for is, if this person is not competent on his seats, what is the capacity building I could offer to this person? But where you see that what the person is far below the rule, then you can actually look at if there are other positions within the organization, say that this person can actually take it up. And so mostly it is in rare cases you are going to have to let someone go because of competence, especially if the person has demonstrated that they believe in the mission of the organization, they are willing to serve the organization. One of the things you could do is to explore if there are other rules the person can actually take up. But where there are no other rules and you are limited by budget, unfortunately, you might still have to let the person go, but keep the person notified that at any point there is an opportunity to get them back. You'll be willing to do that. You can even point them to, if there are opportunities for them to develop much of their expertise outside, they could actually do that whilst they wait for opportunities. But where it is just about the attitude, the person is not on board with every other person. The person wants to stand out. The person's action is not even aware of how their actions are affecting the broader team. Then unfortunately, you may not have a choice, especially if it is something you've not really been able to correct. Then you definitely will have to let them go. But for you to do that, you have to make sure that you are going through the channels within the organization. Mostly you have performance improvement plan, which is not a punitive measure, but like a corrective measure, where they go through that channel and they are still not doing great. You definitely will let them go. But the unique cases where you can also just let someone outrightly go is instances where they do stuff which are just compromising on the core values, like stealing in an organization. I'm sure like once you are, the person will outrightly go, possibly even on the same day. Possibly sexual harassment at an intense level, the person might actually go on the same day. There are actually like a number of elements. Once you cross it, you might actually move the same day, but that will still be aligned, stipulated in the policies within the organization. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Damba. And thank you again, Ebenezer, for your question. Please, again, for all participants, if you have questions, kindly drop or raise your hand. We are happy to. The second question, Mr. Damba, we have here is by Mrs. Nina. And our question is, she said, I am reading this book, Winning with People by John C. Maxwell, who says that hurting people hurts, who says that hurting people hurt people and people are easily hurt by them. And as a leader, one of the essential quality of a leader is your relationship with people. How are you able to handle people who are hurt? So I think she's kind of asking that because hurting people sometimes have an impact on us. And again, we manage people, so how, as a leader, how do you able to, as a leader, one of the essential qualities of leaders is your relationship with people. How are you able to handle people when they are hurt?
A good one. And so like, as a leader, your role, one of your key roles is really to pay attention to the I dimension in our results. So like results can actually be broken into 3 dimensions, right? We have the I dimension, the we dimension, and then the actual results we know. The I dimension is really looking at the personal aspirations of a person. And the we dimension is looking at the interpersonal relationship. So people are hurt from the we dimension. So like for someone to be hurt, it is based on an engagement with another person. And so much of that is why culture exists. Culture exists to handle the we dimension, the interpersonal relationship that exists within staff in their pursuit of the organizational goal. And so like, that is why like the right culture should spell out all the values that should guide how people engage with each other. Respect, humility, empathy, like whatever is important should actually be spelled out, right? Like an example of one of the things we have to do as leaders is, I think I mentioned that last week, to define the values of the organization. And so like if hate is something we really don't take within the organization, we really need to let people understand whenever there is someone who goes through that, we have to demonstrate through the right channels that this is actually alien to how we engage with each other, and demand that the right response is actually offered to those people. And I will always say that a team will always have like an HR or a people and culture person who you would have to bring into this kind of situation, because every opportunity for someone to go through a challenge is an opportunity for us to enhance our culture, because some of the challenges we deal with are tacit. So like it takes until you experience it to actually outline it as something people should pay attention to. So like I might not have it anywhere that if you ever hurt someone this, but once that thing happens, then it presents an opportunity to work with the HR team on how to address the challenge and ensure that we are improving the culture so that people don't have to go through that challenge. I think like building that relationship with your team to be able to open up to the relevant teams are very, very important, and using what they experience as an avenue to improve the broader culture. Say that we are not only solving their problem, but also enhancing the broader culture, saying that no one ever has to go through this again.
Thank you so much, Damba. Just want to share also, addition to what Damba did share on this, is that there are sometimes also that people are hurt based on their own personal emotions, and sometimes, we tend to be a bit selfish, have that selfish bias of ourselves. And the hurt might not be as a result of the reality of the fact. And so for as leaders, this is where we need to separate the lines, and we need to let people understand that, look, we're going to have this difficult decision, and it's not about how you feel, but this is a reality. And let's also understand that as leaders, we are building people. I mean, and because we're building people, the process of building people would not always be the right way. Damba mentioned where he was talking about his supervisor, where she said, we are always going to smile, but please understand that there's going to be a challenging times that we would have to face. And that doesn't have to do with our individual personality, but it's just all around the work. So sometimes, Mrs. Lena, I'm trying to understand from the perspective of why those people are hurt, because sometimes people are just hurt as a result of their ego, as a result of just, and not the reality on the ground. And when you know that it is based on that, try to be as objective as possible, as Mr. Damba have said. And as long as your decision on that or your engagement on that aligns with the policy of the organization, you're fine. And you can always let the people know. And over time, one of the things I've learned is that over time, this kind of people, they tend to appreciate you in the long time. You may not be their favorite at the beginning, but over time, they appreciate, because they know that at those tough moments, you still stand your ground to tell them the real truth and forgetting the fact of relationship. So I just wanted to add to what Mr. Damba have said in that line also. Okay,
yeah, I think that is very
important. Yeah, thank you so much, Damba. The next question, and please, on WhatsApp, do we have anyone that have a question? Maybe we can just give an opportunity for those on WhatsApp if there is any. Anyone WhatsApp on your question? And if not, we proceed. We have questions still on Zoom. Okay, while we wait for those on WhatsApp, another question from Salis is, what are some best practices for creating a positive and supportive work environment, even in the presence of challenging leaders? Okay. I take the question again. And what
please.
What are some best practices for creating a positive and supportive work environment, even in the presence of challenging leaders?
Wow, okay. I think there is actually, this question is a bit complicated, right? And then one thing is, once there are challenges within the leadership, it sends a feedback across the entire organization. That is just one thing, because leadership is about, supporting the team to work in a way that is honorable. And so like once leadership are challenged, it has a way like it could uniquely affect the team. But I'll say like in those instances, one of the things you could actually do is really to focus on results-based management. And results-based management is like a management approach where the focus is really on the results. And so once you begin to notice that there is actually that leadership dynamics or politics which is affecting the environment, one of the things you could definitely try to explore is whether at least there is still that freedom or autonomy for you to go for the results. If that is the opportunity, if there's still that opportunity, then I'll say like that is actually one of the ways you could actually do. Because with results, it is also able to guide you. Once you have clarity on the kind of results you want to achieve, and also have clarity on the relevant team members you should be coordinating with to achieve that results, then maybe you could actually navigate the politics or the challenges within the leadership to achieve that. But even with that, you are still going to have like some challenges associated with, because once the leadership is broken, it sends like a feedback loop across the organization. But your ability to act like a leader, even on your seat, and pursuing the agenda of the organization. Like, what results am I expected to achieve? Should I focus on that? Is it also being compromised by the challenges within the leadership? If the challenges are not compromising your results, please coordinate your effort with the right teams to achieve that. But where possible, please explore the right channels to still share feedback on possibly how the leadership challenge is impacting on this situation. I say that because whenever you think of working, there is efficiency aspect and effectiveness aspect. If the leadership are affected in a way that they are now delaying most of the things, like your approval processes are being delayed, certain resources you need to move forward are being delayed because of the leadership challenges. It is going to be like an aspect that would have an impact. Like, poor efficiency from the leadership might affect the effectiveness of you delivering the kind of results you want to achieve. But where possible for you to navigate and go for your results without actually being consumed by the challenge, please go ahead. But mostly, the best would be like to explore a broader view of what other ways you could actually make a voice on how the leadership challenge could be affecting you. Yeah, James.
Thank you so much, Damba. I think we are right on time, and I'm not sure if there are any other questions. If there are, we can still take maybe one or two max, just before we end the section. And if none, then happy to end, just after I share some quick updates. Any other question, either from WhatsApp or from Zoom? Okay, so okay, thank you, Salis, for that. I think Salis is sending his appreciation on the questions. Thank you so much, Damba, for your time. I think it's really a learning opportunity hearing from you over this last first section and also the second section. And I'm going to encourage everyone that please, we have the recorded section for all of these, both the part 1 and the part 2. Please listen to it again. I do, and it has been so much of a learning for me. It has been of a greater benefit to me, and I want to believe the same also. I mean, Damba has, you all could see even from the questions that we have put, these are questions that cut across any sector, any environment. It's not just specific or limited to the NGO or the developmental work. So I'm going to encourage everyone, please follow through, read through, listen to them while you're driving, while you're doing your morning exercise, while you're bathing, while you're cooking. I mean, you most times have free times that you don't even use valuable. Maybe you're doing an activity. You can just be playing this on your WhatsApp and listening so that you are adding two things and achieving something even while you're doing another thing. Please, I encourage people to listen to them. And I really want to thank Mr. Damba for your time. It's been very, very beneficial. Definitely the benefit is we cannot overemphasize. I have received several feedbacks on the section 1, how it has impacted a lot of people across, but even while here in Mozambique, a lot of people have reached out to me to say, man, James, that section was awesome. And I just want to thank you for you offering yourself to continue to become, be that platform for us to draw from, to learn from. And I want to thank also you for your leadership side, your capacity. We're learning every time. I'm learning a lot from you, as you know, and even while I'm here in Mozambique, we are still connecting and learning. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today, man. We have a good number of participants, both in Zoom, both in WhatsApp, and I want to thank everyone. Apparently, we've come to the end of our leadership section in 2024. And I just want to use this opportunity to sincerely thank everyone. I mean, this all thing started like a joke. I mean, we started in a small room in my home in Tamale then, and people come together and we just talk, we share ideas, we go have lunch together. And somehow, it has not grown to become a great global network. And I can assure you that we are putting a lot of effort in place to make 2025 and the years ahead for a much impactful section. And I want to encourage everyone, and we meet once every 2 weeks, and this is the last section for 2024. In January, we'll be communicating again and meeting. We talked on different subjects. We talked on our core objectives is centered around leadership, development, and mentorship. We also build a global network, of professionals. We also talked about wealth creation through investment and savings. We talked about continuous learning. There are different and key subject areas that we cover, and I will encourage us that please stay tuned and let's continue to connect. Let's continue to build that momentum of becoming great and being an impact to our world. And the whole essence of all of this engagement is how we can get to the point of becoming a significance, where from that we have, people are beginning to benefit from it, and we are not just becoming a reservoir, but rather now a river, a streams that others can learn from. And for us also, we are continuing to also draw and learn from others. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And the recorded section for today also will be available by tonight or tomorrow. It should be available. And please know that we also have a WhatsApp platform. It's a platform for professionals. If you're interested, and also business and career individuals, if you're interested, we talk highly on self-improvement and things that challenge us to keep growing. So please, if you're interested, we would love to also have you on that platform. We are very disciplined on those that join, and we are very conscious of who and the kind of information we share. We try as much. Some things that bring issues around politics, around religion, we don't talk about that. We talked about things that grow us. We have every other platform that we can talk about politics and religion. So, and other things that we know that can affect our personal beliefs or issues. Thank you again. And I want to thank Damba, probably give Damba also the last few words for him to say just before we round off. Thank you.
All right, so James, thank you so much. I appreciate being here. Thanks so much to your team. I would say that you've really formed like a very beautiful community. And I'm just encouraging everyone that these are the platforms we should find ourselves. There are a lot of platforms we can actually get any kind of information, but any information that would actually challenge us to move to the top is really one thing we should really care so much about. This is a very, very big platform, and I am challenging everyone that please make the best out of it. And then please continue to encourage James to keep this alive and to share more beautiful experience with you in 2025. Thank you so much. Handing over back to you, James. Bye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And we will be bye for now. I think it's really been a good opportunity connecting with everyone. And I wish you, if I'm unable to reach out to you this year, please, I wish you the best of the years. And we'll definitely connect in 2025. But definitely before 2025, I may be sharing one or two audio or videos on the on the leadership WhatsApp group towards our planning for 2025. As we all know, we have a 5-year plan for those of us that have been on this section, and we are intentional about fulfilling the plans that individual of us have in our 5-year goals and plan for the years. And many have shared feedbacks of how it has been very instrumental. So for 2025 again, we will be looking at sharing all of that, and I will be sharing 1 or 2 videos just for you to plan towards your 2025. Thank you, and have the best of the day.